In the quiet stillness of night, as the world around you softens and your thoughts begin to drift, allow yourself to travel gently across the vast stretch of time. Imagine the air growing cooler, the lights fading and the present dissolving like mist. Slowly, peacefully, you begin to move backward, past years, past centuries, past the familiar shape of the modern world, until all the noise, all the urgency, all the hurry of today slips away. What remains is a soft, ancient landscape where the story of Rome quietly waits to be remembered. There is no need to focus sharply or concentrate. This journey is meant to unfold like a dream, slow and effortless. The ancient world doesn't demand your attention. It simply welcomes you, like a distant memory rising gently from the depths of time. You may notice faint shapes forming, the outline of hills, the shimmer of a river, the warmth of sunlight over an untouched land. And somewhere within these early shadows lies the beginning of one of the most influential civilizations in human history. Long before marble temples and armored legions, before emperors and poets and bustling marketplaces, there was only a small place on the banks of a quiet river, a place where shepherds tended flocks, where scattered tribes shared stories by firelight, and where every sunrise felt like an unclaimed beginning. This is where we will start our long, soft exploration of the Romans, not with noise or grandeur, but with the gentle simplicity of origins. As you settle deeper into relaxation, feel yourself drifting closer to this early world. The modern city of Rome that you may picture now, its monuments, its ruins, its timeless beauty, was once nothing more than a patch of land surrounded by forests and rolling hills. The river Tiber flowed calmly, as it still does, marking the center of this small, ordinary space that would eventually become extraordinary. But at this moment in time, nothing about it suggests greatness. And that's the peaceful magic of beginnings. They are humble, quiet, and often overlooked. Let the calmness of this scene wash over you. Imagine the soft rustle of leaves in the wind, the gentle movement of water along the riverbank, the distant call of animals in the valley. Life here is slow and simple. People rise with the sun, gather food, tend to their families, and tell stories as the moon climbs into the sky. These early inhabitants of the region do not yet know that they stand at the threshold of an empire that will influence laws, language, architecture, and identity for thousands of years to come. They are simply living, unaware that history will one day look back at them with fascination. As we continue our journey, let your breathing become steady and unrushed. Each breath can be a gentle step deeper into the past, guiding you toward the world that shaped the Romans. The story of Rome is long, beautifully long, and tonight you are invited to move through it at a tranquil, unhurried pace. Nothing will come too fast. Nothing will demand too much of your mind. Instead, each idea, each moment, will arrive softly, like a ripple across still water. You might begin to notice how the landscape becomes more vivid in your imagination. Hills rise like silhouettes against the sky. Hidden pathways wind through forests that once covered ancient Italy. Small communities, the land, each with its own customs, languages, and quiet traditions. These people do not yet call themselves Romans. They do not yet imagine monuments reaching toward the heavens or roads stretching across continents. All of that lies far in the future. For now, their world is defined by survival, community, and the rhythm of nature. There is something comforting in recognizing how simple life once was. No empires, no vast armies, no political struggles, just the everyday existence of people who live close to the earth. They watched the turning of seasons with deep familiarity. They understood the patterns of the sky. They told stories that blurred the line between myth and memory. And in their simplicity, you can find a gentle space to rest your own thoughts. As the night grows deeper, imagine standing at the edge of this ancient landscape. The ground beneath your feet is firm, untouched by modern footsteps. The air carries the scent of soil and wild herbs. A calm breeze brushes against your skin, bringing with it the quiet promise that everything, even the mightiest of civilizations, begins a moment as peaceful as this one. You are not observing Rome in its glory. You are observing Rome before it even imagines what it could become. This is where the journey will unfold. From these earliest whispers of life, through myth and legend, through centuries of growth and conflict and transformation. But for now, there is no need to rush. The story of Rome stretches across more than 1,000 years, and tonight you are wandering through its very first traces, a place where time moves slowly and where history feels like a distant, comforting hum. Allow this calm beginning to settle around you like a soft blanket. You are stepping into a story much larger than any single moment, yet gentle enough to carry you into rest. The world of the ancient Romans is waiting, patient and quiet, ready to reveal itself piece by piece as you drift further into relaxation. And as you lie here, listening, breathing, imagining, the story begins, not with fanfare or triumph, but with a peaceful whisper along the banks of a river that would one day shape the world. Before Rome ever rose from the quiet hills of central Italy, the land itself carried stories far older than the city that would one day define an empire. To drift into this age is to drift into a softer, dimmer world, one where history and mythology blend like fading colors at dusk. The people who lived in these early landscapes did not write long histories or carve monuments into stone. Instead, they left faint traces in the soil, in scattered pottery, in the winding paths of their migrations, and in the myths that survived through whispers and memory. Tonight, we're returned to that distant time, allowing the mind to rest in a world where everything is simpler, slower, and still forming its identity. Imagine Italy long before it was called Italy, a place covered in dense forests, shimmering lakes, and rolling hills. Tribes moved slowly across the land, carrying with them ancient traditions, small herds of animals, and stories that explained the mysteries of nature. The world felt larger than, more mysterious. Each river carried its own spirit. Each mountain held its own legend, and each storm was believed to be the voice of something divine. These early people lived close to the earth, shaping their beliefs from the rhythms of the land and sky. As you drift deeper into this past, imagine the soft glow of firelight inside a small village hut. The air is warm with the scent of burning wood and herbs. Around you, older storytellers speak in gentle tones, passing down tales of origins, tales that later generations would weave into mythology of Rome. These stories were not told for entertainment alone. They explained why people lived where they lived, why their ancestors had traveled great distances, and why their fate seemed tied to the land beneath their feet. One of the earliest ideas that shaped the Roman worldview was a belief that their roots were ancient and sacred, stretching far beyond their immediate surroundings. Before Rome existed, the land was home to several cultures: the Latins, the Sabines, the Etruscans, and many smaller groups scattered across the peninsula. These tribes interacted peacefully at times and tensely at others, but they shared a sense that their world was watched over by unseen forces. To them, every sunrise carried meaning, every harvest reflected divine favor, and every unusual event was a message that needed to be interpreted. Let yourself imagine wandering through this early environment. The hills are quiet. The air carries the earthy scent of damp soil after rain. The forests are alive with birds, insects, and the subtle rustling of small animals moving through the underbrush. There is no city skyline, no carved roads, no sound of metal striking stone. Life is defined by the simplicity of nature and the slow passing of time. People rise with the sun and rest with the moon, living their days by the same rhythms that guided countless generations before them. These tribes believed the world was shaped by divine stories, stories that explained why their ancestors had arrived here and what purpose their lives served. Among the Latins, there was the idea that their people came from somewhere distant, guided by fate and carried by the will of gods who watched over travelers. These ancient narratives were gentle, dreamlike attempts to understand existence. They were not recorded in books. Instead, they were carried in the hearts and memories of the people, passed through generations like a soft, continuous song. In this world, time moves differently. Years do not feel rushed or pressured. Seasons follow one another calmly, and every shift in the weather is a familiar part of life. The early people worshipped natural forces, believing that the spirits of rivers, trees, and mountains lived among them. Offerings were made not in grand temples, but in quiet groves or beside streams, where the breeze could carry prayers into the vastness of the sky. These moments of ritual were peaceful, filled with gratitude and reverence for the world that sustained them. As you continue to drift, you may picture the early settlements scattered across the region. Simple clusters of wooden huts surrounded by farmland. Families worked together, sharing their harvests and their daily routines. Children grew up hearing tales of heroes, gods, and ancient wanderers. These stories formed the foundation of identity long before Rome ever existed. In these tales, ancestors sailed across seas, battled monsters of imagination, and journeyed through lands unknown. Though these myths changed over time, they held a quiet truth: the belief that the people were part of something greater than themselves. Much later, Romans would trace their origins back to these early tribes, blending historical memory with rich mythology. They would look at the land around them, the hills, the rivers, the forests, and see evidence of these ancient stories everywhere. But for now, in this distant age before Rome, these myths were simply part of everyday life, woven into the fabric of existence. Let this early world become soft and wide in your mind. There are no armies marching across continents, no rulers declaring laws, no grand architecture rising toward the sky. There is only the patient unfolding of life in a land untouched by the weight of history. The people who lived here understood the world through emotions and instincts, shaping their beliefs from the harmony and unpredictability of nature. Some of these early tribes created burial mounds and ceremonial sites, quiet places meant to honor ancestors and seek guidance from the unseen. Others traveled lightly across the land, living season by season. Their tools were simple, their homes modest, and their communities close-knit. Yet within this simplicity existed the seeds of everything that Rome would one day become. As you rest in this calm moment, imagine standing on a hill overlooking the landscape of early Italy. The sky stretches endlessly above, colored by the fading light of dusk. The land spreads out below you, quiet and full of possibility. You can almost sense the future waiting patiently, like a story slowly forming but not yet ready to be told. The tribes that inhabit this land are unaware of the vast empire that will one day rise in their traditions and myths. They live within the small, tender boundaries of their world, guided by the stories they believe explain their existence. This soft, ancient world is a foundation upon which Rome will eventually grow. Before the city of Rome appeared, before its legends were shaped, before its people carved their place in history, there was only this gentle land filled with quiet traditions and early dreams. In these myths born in the dark, the earliest echoes of Rome begin, not with certainty, but with imagination. Long before Rome took shape on its 7 hills, the people who would one day call themselves Romans believed their story began far away, in the glowing embers of a burning city across the sea. This was the tale of Aeneas, a wandering hero born from myth memory and poetic imagination. To settle into this ancient story is to drift deeper into a world where gods walk beside humans, where fate feels like a gentle hand guiding every step, and where the past is wrapped in a calm, dreamlike haze. Let your mind soften as the story unfolds slowly, like a quiet tide rolling across the shore. Imagine, far across the Mediterranean, the city of Troy at the end of a long war. Its walls are tall and proud, but the night is heavy with the scent of smoke and the soft crackle of burning timber. Most stories of Troy are filled with noise, clashing swords, shouting warriors, roaring flames. But tonight, the scene is peaceful, suspended in time. The chaos fades into the background, leaving only the slow, inevitable fall of the city that has reached the end of its story. Within this gentle ruin walks Aeneas, a calm figure moving through the darkness with purpose. He is not a conqueror or a victor. He is simply a man guided by a quiet, unwavering sense of destiny. Aeneas carries his elderly father on his back and holds the hand of his young son. Around him, the night glows faintly with embers drifting like fireflies. In this soft light, you can feel the weight of what has been lost, and yet there is no urgency, only the slow acceptance that one chapter is ended and another must begin. Aeneas is led not by ambition, but by something deeper, something the Romans later called fate, an idea that unfolds slowly, patiently, over generations. Allow the scene to shift gently. Aeneas and his surviving companions board their ships and push off into the quiet vastness of the sea. The water is calm, its surface reflecting the moon like a pathway made of silver. The journey ahead is long, filled with unknown shores and silent trials. But in this moment, the sea is peaceful. The ships move slowly, guided by soft winds that seem to carry whispers of the gods. The people aboard these ships look out across the horizon with a mixture of sadness and hope, unsure where the waves will lead them but trusting that they are being guided towards something meaningful. Their journey takes them from island to island, from one ancient land to another. Each place they stop is filled with its own myths, its own spirits, its own small mysteries. And yet, Aeneas never truly settles. He feels the gentle pull of destiny urging him forward. To the Romans who later cherished this story, Aeneas represented resilience not through force, but through quiet endurance, through the calm acceptance of change, loss, and uncertainty. He continues because he believes he must, not because he desires glory. As the ships move farther west, imagine the soft lapping of waves against the wooden hulls. The nights spent on deck are quiet, with only the stars illuminating the sky. Aeneas gazes upward, searching for signs, watching the constellations shift across the heavens. To ancient people, these stars were divine messengers, comforting reminders that they were never entirely alone. With each night that passes, Aeneas and his companions drift a little closer to the land that will eventually shape their descendants. Their journey is not without sorrow. Along the way, Aeneas meets Dido, the queen of Carthage, whose presence brings a fleeting warmth to his wandering life. Their connection is tender, quiet, and brief, like a gentle flame glowing in the dark before fading. When Aeneas leaves Carthage, guided once again by fate, the departure feels like a soft ache carried across the sea. But the story moves onward, always onward, following the quiet path laid out for him. Eventually, the ships reach the shores of Italy. The coastline is rugged yet serene, shaped by gentle waves and soft winds. The land is green and fertile, a place that feels both unfamiliar and strangely welcoming. Aeneas steps onto the shore with the calm certainty that this is where his wandering ends. The air carries a sense of promise, a sense that the soil beneath his feet holds the beginning of something far greater than himself. Life in this new land unfolds slowly. Aeneas meets local tribes, forming alliances and building the first fragile connections that will one day shape the foundations of Rome. There are conflicts, but in this soft retelling, they pass like distant storms, acknowledged but not dwelled upon. What matters is that Aeneas remains steady, patient, and guided by the quiet assurance that he is fulfilling a sacred purpose. To the Romans, Aeneas was not just a hero. He was a bridge between myth and history, a reminder that their origins were wrapped in divine intention. They believed that from his lineage would come the founders of Rome, and from Rome would come a civilization destined to influence the world. But all of that lies far in the future. For now, Aeneas stands in the gentle twilight of his story, a calm figure settling into the land that his descendants will one day call home. As you rest in this moment, let the myth settle softly into your imagination. Aeneas' journey is not one of drama or action tonight, but quiet passage through loss, hope, and destiny. His footsteps echo gently across the ancient world, reminding us that even the greatest stories begin with small, patient movements. And from these movements, from these myths born across the sea, the earliest threads of Rome's story begin to weave together, soft and unhurried, like a tapestry slowly forming in the dim light of dawn.
In the quiet world of early Italy, where myths drifted as gently as morning mist, another story slowly took shape, one that the Romans believed marked the true beginning of their city. It is a tale that blends the softness of legend with the stillness of ancient landscapes, a story whispered through generations until it settled into the collective memory like a calm, familiar lullaby. To enter this story is to move into a dreamlike space where everything feels softened, slowed, and gently illuminated by the glow of imagination. Imagine the banks of the Tiber River long before the city of Rome existed. The air is still, carrying the earthy scent of wet soil and tall grasses swaying softly in the breeze. The river flows with a low, murmuring sound, as though humming an ancient melody known only to the land itself. Along its edges, trees stretch their branches over the water, their leaves shimmering faintly in the morning light. This peaceful setting becomes the cradle of one of the most famous legends in Roman tradition, the tale of the twin brothers Romulus and Remus. According to the myth, the twins were born into a world full of uncertainty and danger. Their mother was forced to abandon them, not out of cruelty, but out of fear for their safety. The order had been given. The infants were to be left to die. Yet as the story unfolds in this quiet retelling, there is no panic, no chaos, only the gentle course of fate guiding every moment. Imagine the small wooden cradle or basket carrying the newborns as it drifts slowly along the calm waters of the river. The surface ripples softly beneath them, as though cradling the children with the tenderness of a mother's touch. Eventually, the river carries the twins to a sheltered place at the base of a hill. It is here, in this tranquil nook surrounded by nature, that the most iconic part of the myth takes shape. A she-wolf emerges from the shadows of the forest. But tonight, she is not fierce or threatening. Instead, she is a gentle guardian, moving with slow, careful steps toward the crying infants. The myth tells us that she nursed them, protected them, and watched over them with an almost magical calm. In this peaceful version of the tale, imagine her breathing steady and deep, the twins curled against her warm fur, sheltered by her presence and the soft lull of the forest around them. Eventually, a shepherd finds the boys, drawn by the sound of their quiet cries. He does not act with fear or hesitation. He recognizes something special in them. He carries them to his home, where they grow up surrounded by gentle hills, simple people, and the steady rhythm of pastoral life. In these early years, Romulus and Remus are not yet destined founders, not yet symbols of a powerful future. They are simply two boys exploring the world around them, learning its patterns, its silences, and its stories. As time passes, the twins become known among the local people for their strength, their unity, and their restless energy. Yet even in their liveliest moments, imagine their actions wrapped in the softness of legend, muted, distant, and almost dreamlike. Their bond is deep, shaped by the strange, mystical circumstances of their early survival. When they eventually discover their true origins, the story unfolds slowly, as though time itself pauses to let them realize who they are meant to be. The moment comes when the brothers decide to found a city of their own. They return to the land where the river cradled them as infants. The hills around them are quiet, waiting patiently. The sky stretches open above, filled with pale light. The air carries the gentle sound of wind rustling through long grasses. This is where they choose to create something new, something that will one day become the heart of an empire. But the myth also contains a soft sadness. As the brothers discuss the foundations of the city, disagreements rise between them, not sharp, not loud, but heavy with destiny. Some versions speak of omens and signs, of birds circling overhead and messages interpreted from the sky. Others simply tell of quiet tension growing between two people who once shared everything. In this peaceful retelling, imagine the moment as calm but heavy, like a slow-moving cloud across a dim sky. The conflict ends with one of the most famous moments in Roman mythology. Romulus stands alone, and Remus falls. Yet even this event, often recounted with drama, becomes subdued here. Imagine the scene softened by distance, like a memory blurred by time. There is no violence, no sound, only the gentle shift of fate taking its course. Remus's story fades into the mythic air, and Romulus steps forward, carrying the weight of a destiny he never sought but cannot refuse. Romulus begins the work of building the city that will bear his name. The foundations rise slowly, shaped by human hands guided by ancient purpose. The ground is marked, walls are imagined, boundaries are set. Everything grows gradually, piece by piece, like a dream constructing itself. The first huts appear, then the first gathering places, then the earliest rituals that will define Roman identity. The city begins in silence, in subtle gestures, in the soft determination of those who believe in its future. With each passing moment, the landscape transforms. What was once a quiet patch of land near the river becomes something alive with potential. People gather. Families settle. Paths become roads. The gentle hum of life begins to rise from the ground. And the myth of Romulus becomes more than a story. It becomes a symbol of beginnings, of resilience, of the quiet power hidden in small, uncertain origins. As you rest in this legend, let the imagination soften the edges of the tale. The rivalry becomes symbolic. The wolf becomes a guardian spirit of the land. The river becomes a cradle for destiny. Everything in the myth flows with the slow, calming rhythm of ancient storytelling. The details blur into gentle shapes, merging seamlessly with the surrounding world of hills, forests, and flowing water. This long-remembered myth was never meant to be taken literally. Instead, it was meant to give meaning to the land, to provide the earliest Romans with a sense of where they came from and why their city existed. It is a story that feels both unreal and deeply familiar, like a dream that lingers softly in memory long after waking. And now, in this quiet retelling, the myth settles around you like a warm cloak. You have walked beside the river, felt the calm breath of the she-wolf, witnessed the birth of a future city, and drifted through the gentle tension of destiny. This tale, like many ancient stories, is not meant to excite but to soothe, guiding you through the earliest layers of Rome's past with steady, peaceful steps. From this soft foundation, the story of Rome will continue to unfold, slowly, patiently, with the same calm rhythm that carried the twins along the Tiber in their first fragile moments. The myth of Romulus and Remus becomes the first quiet heartbeat of a civilization that will echo through time. After the founding of Rome by Romulus, the city slowly began to take form, growing from a collection of simple dwellings into a community with its own rhythms, routines, and early leadership. The hills around the Tiber were quiet witnesses to the first years of this fledgling city, their slopes catching the morning light, their forests rustling softly in the wind. Life in these early days was calm yet deliberate. Families settled, small gardens were planted, and the sounds of daily work, soft footsteps, quiet chatter, the clinking of simple tools, formed a steady, peaceful backdrop to the growing story of Rome. As the city expanded, leadership naturally arose. The Romans remembered these early rulers as kings, though the title carried a different weight than it would in later centuries. The kings were not distant emperors wielding absolute power, but guides, caretakers, and figures who helped shape laws, customs, and early traditions. The first king, said to be Romulus himself, set patterns that would ripple through the generations. His rule was firm but gentle, marked by practical decisions and symbolic acts meant to unite the people under a shared sense of purpose. Imagine him walking through the quiet streets, speaking softly with elders and builders, listening to advice, watching the slow unfolding of the city he had imagined. Each successive king added his own subtle mark. Numa Pompilius, the second king, is remembered for bringing spiritual calm to the city. He established rituals, festivals, and sacred customs designed to harmonize the people with the divine forces around them. In this soft retelling, picture the city bathed in the gentle glow of early morning, temples not yet towering monuments but modest places of reflection, firelight flickering as priests and citizens alike participate in quiet ceremonies. These rituals connected the inhabitants to the rhythms of nature, the cycles of the moon, and the invisible threads of fate that guided their lives. Over time, the early kings encouraged law and order, slowly shaping what would later become the foundation of Roman governance. They developed simple but important regulations about property, family, and community responsibilities. In a world where survival depended on cooperation, these structures were subtle yet powerful, like the soft tension in a woven fabric holding everything together. People learned to live alongside one another with respect and care, balancing personal needs with the needs of the growing city. During this era, Rome's population was small but vibrant. Traders, farmers, shepherds, and craftsmen filled the quiet streets and open fields, each day unfolding slowly and peacefully. Life was simple, yet it was alive with purpose. Markets were small gatherings, filled with soft voices and gentle laughter, the exchange of goods accompanied by the distant hum of nature. In the evenings, families gathered around fires to share stories, passing down knowledge, traditions, and lessons with patience and care. These stories often blended myth and memory, a quiet weaving of reality and imagination that nurtured the identity of the city. The early kings also faced challenges, though none were dramatic or rushed. Border disputes, small conflicts with neighboring tribes, and occasional shortages of food or resources were handled carefully, with negotiation, compromise, and diplomacy. Imagine the king sitting under the shade of a tree, listening to representatives from nearby villages, weighing words slowly, allowing the soft rhythm of dialogue to guide decisions. In this way, leadership felt less like a display of power and more like a careful balancing act, a slow dance between ambition and patience. One of the most important aspects of these early reigns was the focus on community. Kings worked to integrate different groups of people into a cohesive society. Latins, Sabines, and other neighboring tribes were drawn into the fold through marriages, alliances, and agreements that were gentle and deliberate. These early efforts created a sense of shared identity, a soft, binding thread that would hold Rome together as it grew larger, stronger, and more complex in the centuries to come. Another subtle, enduring legacy of the kings was the foundation of Rome's sacred spaces. Early temples, shrines, and altars were built not to impress, but to honor, to provide quiet places where citizens could reflect, pray, and participate in the invisible rhythms of the world around them. Imagine the gentle flicker of torches at night, the scent of incense curling into the air, the soft murmur of voices in quiet conversation with unseen forces. These early spiritual practices would later evolve into a complex religious system, but in these first years, they were simple, calm, and deeply connected to daily life. Throughout the reigns of the seven kings, Rome remained a small, intimate city. Its growth was steady, measured, and thoughtful, like water slowly carving a riverbed through soft earth. Each king added something unique, laws, customs, spiritual practices, or alliances, yet none rushed the city toward greatness. Instead, the focus was on harmony, balance, and the quiet cultivation of society. Imagine each sunrise bringing new possibilities, each evening wrapping the city in the soft comfort of routine, each year adding a subtle layer to the unfolding story of Rome. In this period, the Romans began to understand the importance of shared identity and tradition. Stories of heroes, divine guidance, and moral lessons were passed from one generation to the next in calm, deliberate ways. Children listened quietly, absorbing the rhythms of the past and the gentle shaping of their own culture. These small, quiet acts of transmission, teaching, storytelling, ritual, would echo for centuries, becoming the threads that held together the vast tapestry of Roman civilization. And so, in these early years under the Seven Kings, Rome became more than just a collection of huts and fields. It became a living, breathing community guided by leaders who ruled not with haste or fear, but with a calm awareness of responsibility and connection. It was a city learning to grow, learning to balance power and spirituality, tradition and innovation, all under the soft watch of the hills and rivers that had witnessed its earliest beginnings. In this gentle unfolding, the foundations of Rome were laid, not in grandeur or spectacle, but in quiet care, deliberate action, and the subtle rhythm of life itself. As the years passed under the Seven Kings, the people of Rome grew accustomed to a rhythm of life that balanced ritual, community, and quiet governance. Yet even in this calm, orderly city, subtle tensions began to stir beneath the surface. The power of the kings, though measured and deliberate, was concentrated in the hands of a few. Over time, whispers of dissatisfaction and questions about fairness began to circulate among the citizens. It was not loud, it was not violent, but it was persistent, a soft current beneath the surface of daily life, hinting that the structure that had guided Rome for generations might slowly change. The final king, Tarquin the Proud, ruled with a firmness that, while not immediate in its effect, left a lasting impression on the people. His decisions often felt heavy, his judgment more assertive, and his way of asserting authority carried a weight that the citizens had not fully experienced before. Imagine the streets of early Rome as quiet pathways lined with simple homes. Citizens moved about their days, performing ordinary tasks, but in the background, the subtle pressure of centralized power was felt. It was like a slow, almost imperceptible wind pressing against the city, nudging the hearts of its people toward reflection, toward a yearning for change. Over time, this tension reached a quiet but critical point. The Roman people began to realize that their lives, though peaceful, were being shaped by decisions made solely by one man. Discussions among neighbors and elders grew more frequent, soft debates about fairness, law, and participation taking place in the calm of the evening, beside fires or along the banks of the river. In this subdued manner, the seeds of the Republic were quietly planted, nurtured by patience, conversation, and the gentle insistence that life could be shared more evenly among the people. The story of the transition from monarchy to republic is not one of sudden upheaval, but of careful, deliberate action. Led by figures like Lucius Junius Brutus, the citizens of Rome slowly organized their ideas and hopes, preparing to step into a new form of governance. It was not a violent revolution in the sense we often imagine. Instead, it unfolded as a patient, almost ceremonial process, with meetings held under the shade of trees, laws and decisions debated calmly, and agreements reached through careful negotiation. The transition reflected the city's earlier traditions, measured, thoughtful, and infused with a sense of moral purpose. Once the decision was made to abolish the monarchy, the office of the king was replaced by the concept of shared power. 2 consuls were elected each year to oversee the city, each holding equal authority and guiding decisions with mutual consent. This structure created a balance that allowed Rome to grow while preventing any one individual from holding unchecked power. Imagine the first consuls stepping quietly into their roles, listening to the advice of elders, walking among citizens, observing the rhythms of daily life, and making choices that reflected the needs of the many rather than the desires of a single ruler. Their work was not dramatic, but deliberate, steady, and essential for the delicate balance of the new republic. Alongside political reform, the early republic carefully preserved traditions from the Age of Kings. Rituals, festivals, and spiritual observances continued, providing a familiar rhythm to the lives of citizens as they adjusted to a new form of government. Temple fires still burned softly, prayers were whispered, and the quiet sounds of ceremonial music accompanied gatherings in public spaces. These familiar patterns of life offered a sense of comfort and continuity, helping the city embrace change without fear. The transition, though significant, felt natural, as though Rome had been moving toward this form of governance all along, like a slow river carving its course through the land. Social structures, too, were re-examined in this new era. Patricians, the aristocratic families, held influence and wealth, but the broader population of plebeians began to see opportunities for voice and participation. While the balance was not perfect, small but meaningful changes allowed citizens to feel more connected to the decisions that shaped their lives. Imagine assemblies held in quiet courtyards, debates spoken in low tones, decisions emerging gradually after reflection and consultation. This calm, measured approach to governance became one of the defining characteristics of the Republic, the idea that power could be shared, not imposed. The first years of the Republic were marked by careful attention to laws, customs, and the foundations of civic life. Leaders worked to create guidelines that would preserve order, maintain fairness, and honor tradition. Roads were slowly improved, markets were organized, and public spaces were maintained for gatherings and festivals. Citizens began to recognize their own ability to influence the city's direction, creating a subtle, ongoing dialogue between rulers and people. This quiet collaboration reinforced the sense that Rome's growth and strength were not only measured by conquest or wealth, but by the collective wisdom and participation of its inhabitants. Even as the Republic established itself, challenges arose. Border disputes, threats from neighboring tribes, and internal disagreements required careful negotiation. Yet, in this gentle retelling, these events are not violent eruptions but calm, measured responses to circumstance. Leaders listened, citizens advised, and solutions were implemented gradually, like soft waves adjusting the shape of the shore over time. The city learned to balance ambition with prudence, authority with consultation, and tradition with innovation. Through these early years, Rome began to form an identity as a community governed by law, shared responsibility, and thoughtful leadership. The fall of the monarchy was not a sudden rupture but a slow, deliberate transformation, guided by patient visionaries and a populace willing to embrace a new way of life. It was a gentle revolution, characterized by careful planning, calm discussion, and the quiet belief that a better, more balanced future was possible. And so, under the soft guidance of the early consuls and the watchful eyes of its citizens, Rome entered a new chapter. A chapter defined by measured power, thoughtful governance, and the quiet rhythms of civic life. The city learned that strength did not come from a single ruler, but from the steady, cooperative effort of many, working together under the calm, enduring principles that would shape Roman civilization for centuries to come. In the early Republic, as Rome adjusted to a new way of governing itself, The people began to notice the subtle differences that shaped daily life. The city was not yet a sprawling metropolis, but a collection of small communities, each with its own rhythm, its own quiet stories, and its own place within the larger landscape of the Tiber River and surrounding hills. Life moved slowly here, filled with simple routines, soft sounds, and the gentle passage of time. Among the many threads that wove the fabric of Roman society, one of the most significant was the distinction between patricians and plebeians, the two social classes whose interactions would quietly shape the city for generations. Patricians were the descendants of the oldest families, custodians of tradition and memory. They carried the weight of ancestry, with stories of early kings and divine ancestors whispered from one generation to the next. In their homes, life was orderly and calm. Ceremonies were conducted with care, offerings to the gods made with quiet devotion, and decisions about land, family, and resources taken thoughtfully. Imagine a patrician family rising with the sun, tending small gardens, consulting elders, and sharing stories with children under the soft glow of early morning. Their world was structured, deliberate, and grounded in a long view of time. Plebeians, by contrast, made up the broader population. They were farmers, laborers, artisans, and traders, each contributing to the city's growth in small, steady ways. Their lives were simpler, yet full of purpose. Imagine waking to the soft sounds of roosters crowing, the gentle rustle of leaves, and the low murmur of neighbors greeting one another as they begin their daily work. Plebeians worked the fields, repaired homes, tended animals, and engaged in crafts, each action part of the quiet rhythm of survival and community. Though their influence on politics was limited at first, their labor and presence were essential to the life of Rome, forming the soft but steady foundation upon which the city rested. Despite these differences, patricians and plebeians shared many aspects of daily life. Both rose with the sun and rested when it set. Both gathered in quiet moments for meals, conversation, and ritual. Both listened to the wind in the trees, the flow of the river, and the distant calls of animals across the hills. Even the tensions between classes, while present, moved slowly, like a river's current beneath a smooth surface. Disputes arose over land, debt, or family matters, yet they were usually handled with dialogue, arbitration, and compromise rather than force. The city's growth depended on cooperation, and over time, both groups learned the importance of working together in subtle, gentle ways. In addition to social distinctions, both classes participated in the early civic and religious life of Rome. Festivals and rituals were occasions for the community to gather, to honor the gods, and to reinforce the bonds that held the city together. During these ceremonies, patricians often led prayers, organized offerings, and maintained traditions, while plebeians joined with quiet devotion, contributing food, labor, and presence. Imagine a soft evening, torches flickering gently, voices rising and falling like the rhythm of a calm tide. Music, chants, and whispered prayers mingle with the natural sounds of the night, the river flowing, leaves rustling, and the distant calls of nocturnal animals. In these moments, differences of class fade into a shared experience, a collective participation in the slow unfolding story of the city. Education and mentorship were also a gentle thread connecting the classes. While patricians often had access to tutors and elders with deep knowledge of history, religion, and law, plebeian children learned skills through observation, work, and storytelling. Knowledge moved slowly, passed down through generations, and was valued not for speed or utility alone, but for its connection to community, tradition, and character. Imagine a young plebeian watching a potter shape clay or a farmer tend a field, absorbing not only the practical skills but the patience and care inherent in each action. In this way, the city grew not only physically but culturally, every individual contributing to the soft, enduring growth of Roman society. Trade and interaction between classes also shaped the quiet rhythm of the city. Markets were small and calm, filled with low voices, soft laughter, and gentle negotiations. Patricians might observe the exchange of goods, appreciating the skill and care of the plebeians, while plebeians gained insight into resources, expectations, and the values of their neighbors. These everyday interactions created subtle bonds, mutual recognition, and respect, allowing the city to function harmoniously despite its hierarchical structure. The pulse of Rome was slow but steady, like a heartbeat beneath the surface of a vast and growing organism. Marriage and family life provided another layer of connection. While patricians often married within their class to preserve lineage, plebeians created families that nurtured cooperation, work, and continuity. Children learned from elders, neighbors, and each other, participating in the gentle transmission of values, rituals, and practical skills. Through these quiet lessons, the next generation absorbed the wisdom of the past and the rhythms of the present, ensuring that the city would continue to grow in a calm, sustainable manner. Even the spaces of the city reflected this sense of quiet organization. Paths led gently across hills and along riverbanks. Small homes and gathering places were built thoughtfully, considering comfort, function, and community. Temples and shrines, modest but meaningful, provided spaces for reflection, prayer, and communal harmony. Imagine walking through these streets at dawn or dusk, hearing only the soft stirrings of life, sensing the underlying structure and care that allowed the city to thrive. Every brick, every field, every ritual contributed to a slow, enduring balance. Through the interactions of patricians and plebeians, Rome learned the quiet power of cooperation, respect, and shared responsibility. Differences of class existed, yet they were tempered by rituals, conversation, and common purpose. This balance, delicate but persistent, created the foundation for a society that could grow, adapt, and endure over centuries. The city was still young, still learning, yet in the calm interweaving of social threads, it found its first enduring strength. And so, as the sun rises and sets over the hills and river, as families work quietly and communities gather softly, Rome continues its gentle journey. Patricians and plebeians, though different in station, are linked by the soft pulse of life, the rhythms of work and ritual, and the quiet, patient growth of a city destined for greatness. In this serene balance, the early republic finds its heartbeat, a rhythm of harmony, subtle tension, and enduring calm that will carry it forward into the unfolding centuries of Roman history. As Rome continued to grow and establish its identity, the city began to look beyond its immediate surroundings, stretching quietly into the surrounding countryside and neighboring territories. The hills, the rivers, and the forests had nurtured its earliest generations, but the soft, steady curiosity of the Romans slowly pushed them to explore, trade, and interact with those who lived beyond their city walls. These early expansions were not rushed, and they were not marked by chaos. Instead, they moved at a deliberate pace, like the gentle flow of the Tiber itself, shaping the city's influence with quiet purpose. Along the borders, small towns and villages dotted the landscape, each with its own customs and traditions. The Romans observed these neighboring peoples carefully, learning from their skills, their rituals, and the rhythms of their daily lives. It was a period of observation as much as action. Imagine walking softly along a wooded path, noticing the way another village builds its homes, organizes its market, or conducts its ceremonies. Rome absorbed these details slowly, integrating what was useful, honoring what was meaningful, and blending it seamlessly with its own emerging traditions. Trade became one of the first gentle bridges between communities. Markets were quiet, calm places where goods moved at a natural pace. Traders exchanged grains, livestock, tools, and simple crafts, each transaction accompanied by polite conversation and soft laughter. Through these exchanges, the Romans learned about distant customs, new foods, and different approaches to agriculture and craftsmanship. These small interactions, almost imperceptible in their subtlety, planted the seeds for stronger connections, alliances, and mutual respect. They shaped the early sense of diplomacy that would become a hallmark of Rome's long, steady expansion. Alongside trade, alliances were formed with neighboring peoples. Marriages, agreements, and shared religious observances created a web of relationships that linked Rome to its surrounding territories. These connections were deliberate and careful, designed to maintain peace while gradually extending influence. Imagine a quiet ceremony on a hilltop, where representatives of two communities meet to exchange gifts, prayers are offered, and promises are made in soft, measured words. The air is still, the sun hangs low in the sky, and the bond is both practical and symbolic, laying the foundation for cooperation over generations. Even as Rome reached outward, the city itself continued to grow internally. Roads were constructed slowly, following the contours of the land, connecting small neighborhoods, markets, and temples. Waterways were managed carefully, ensuring that the city could sustain its population without disruption. Simple bridges and wooden structures facilitated the movement of people and goods, and each improvement was undertaken with patience and forethought. The city remained calm, orderly, and measured in its growth, ensuring that expansion did not overwhelm its existing structures or its people's way of life. Alongside these practical developments, Rome maintained and refined its legal and civic systems. Laws were codified and recorded, not hurriedly, but carefully, providing a consistent framework for resolving disputes, managing property, and regulating social behavior. Citizens, both patricians and plebeians, participated in assemblies and discussions, learning to balance personal interest with communal responsibility. Imagine sitting quietly in an open courtyard, hearing voices raised gently in debate, feeling the slow rhythm of civic life moving steadily forward. This process reinforced the city's identity and encouraged a shared sense of purpose among its inhabitants. Religion continued to play a subtle but central role in these early expansions. Temples and shrines were built or adapted to honor gods and spirits observed both in Rome and among neighboring communities. Festivals, sacrifices, and quiet prayers offered guidance and reassurance to the citizens, linking their daily lives to the cycles of nature and the unseen forces that shaped their world. Imagine an evening festival, torches casting soft shadows, music rising faintly in the air, voices murmuring invocations to gods who seemed to watch gently from the skies. These moments reinforced unity, offering comfort as the city grew and reached outward. Military organization also developed during this period, though in a slow, unhurried manner. Rome was not yet the powerhouse that would dominate the Mediterranean, but it understood the importance of protection and preparedness. Citizens were trained and organized in small, local groups, practicing discipline, coordination, and defense with calm attention. Imagine drills occurring on open fields at dawn, the sun just rising over the hills, every movement deliberate and measured. The goal was not conquest yet, but security, ensuring that the city and its allies could maintain peace and stability as they interacted with the wider region. As Rome extended its influence, it also encountered new cultures, languages, and ideas. Each encounter offered lessons, subtle adjustments, and inspirations for Rome's own customs. The city did not rush to dominate but observed carefully, adapting what it could and respectfully integrating what was meaningful. This slow, observant expansion allowed Rome to grow resilient, blending strength with subtlety, learning to balance ambition with prudence, and curiosity with caution. Every small interaction added a soft layer to the city's identity, preparing it for future challenges and opportunities. Even in these calm expansions, life in Rome retained its daily rhythms. Families continued their work, children learned from elders, and communities gathered for meals, festivals, and quiet reflection. The city's heartbeat remained slow and steady, undisturbed by the outward reach of influence and observation. In this way, Rome's growth was both external and internal, nurturing its people, traditions, and structures while gently extending its presence across the surrounding landscape. Through this patient expansion, Rome established its reputation as a city that could grow thoughtfully, balance internal and external needs, and maintain harmony with neighbors. The foundations laid during these quiet years created a sense of order, foresight, and resilience that would carry Rome through centuries of complex developments. And as the sun rises and sets over the hills and rivers, as markets hum softly and communities move in calm coordination, the story of Rome unfolds gently, like a river slowly carving its path through the land, preparing for the greatness yet to come. As Rome continued its quiet expansion, both in territory and in influence, the city's people began to understand the importance of structure, governance, and disciplined organization. The Republic was still young, and while the daily rhythm of life moved slowly and peacefully, the leaders and citizens knew that the city needed order to thrive. This was a time of learning for Rome, a period when customs, laws, and civic responsibility were shaped not by grand battles or dramatic events, but by steady, careful attention to the needs of a growing community. Imagine the streets at dawn, soft lights spilling over the Tiber, citizens moving along their familiar paths, while the unseen rhythms of governance and duty guide their lives with gentle precision. The early republic emphasized balance in every aspect of life. Power was shared among elected officials, laws were applied thoughtfully, and social customs reinforced harmony within the community. Citizens, both patricians and plebeians, learned that their roles carried responsibility. The patricians provided guidance, knowledge, and resources, while plebeians contributed labor, craft, and participation. Each action, however small, contributed to the delicate balance of the city. Imagine families tending fields, traders opening quiet stalls in the market, and elders teaching children the rhythms of daily life. Every movement, every word, every choice slowly built a city grounded in shared purpose. This was also a time when Rome's identity began to solidify through conflict, though not violent in the dramatic sense often imagined. The city faced intermittent disputes with neighboring communities, small tensions over land or resources, and the need to assert its presence without overwhelming others. Each challenge was approached with careful planning, negotiation, and diplomacy. Leaders would meet under the shade of trees or in small, open courtyards, weighing options, listening to advice, and making decisions with patience. In this way, the Republic grew not through rash action but through thoughtful strategy, learning to protect its people while extending influence softly, deliberately, and without unnecessary haste. One of the critical aspects of this period was the codification of laws. Early Romans understood that order and fairness were essential for a stable society. Laws were recorded, debated, and interpreted in measured ways, guiding daily life with gentle authority. Citizens consulted elders, officials mediated disputes, and decisions were reached through discussion rather than force. Imagine a quiet evening in a courtyard, the soft rustle of leaves above, as neighbors gather to discuss issues calmly, exchanging ideas with patience and care. These early legal foundations would grow over time, creating a system that balanced power, responsibility, and justice, becoming one of the most enduring legacies of the Republic. Alongside law and governance, Rome also strengthened its sense of civic duty and public service. Citizens were encouraged to participate in assemblies, to voice concerns, and to support communal projects. Small acts of contribution, repairing streets, tending public spaces, maintaining temples, were recognized as essential to the health of the city. Imagine groups of citizens moving quietly together, repairing pathways or carrying water, their movements coordinated but unhurried, each action reinforcing the interconnectedness of the community. In these subtle ways, Rome nurtured a culture of responsibility, respect, and participation that would sustain it for centuries. Military organization, too, became an essential part of civic life, but it was cultivated with calm diligence rather than urgency. Every able citizen was trained, not only for defense but to learn discipline, coordination, and preparedness. Drills and exercises were conducted on open fields at sunrise, the air filled with the soft sounds of organized movement, instructions spoken in measured tones, and the gentle rhythm of practice repeated over and over. Through these exercises, the citizens learned not only tactics but patience, endurance, and the quiet cohesion necessary for a city that relied on both unity and individual responsibility. Religion continued to guide the daily lives of Romans during this period. Temples, shrines, and public rituals were maintained as a bridge between the people and the unseen forces that governed the natural world. Offerings, prayers, and quiet celebrations connected citizens to cycles of life, seasons, and the divine. Imagine a soft evening festival, torches flickering gently, the river reflecting the pale light, voices murmuring in unison with the whisper of the wind. These rituals offered comfort, continuity, and reassurance as the city expanded its reach and strengthened its internal cohesion. The interplay between internal governance, social responsibility, law, and military organization created a subtle but powerful dynamic. Rome learned to balance the needs of its people with the ambitions of the state. Its strength grew quietly, without spectacle, through the steady efforts of citizens, leaders, and communities working together in harmony. Small victories, resolving disputes, building infrastructure, maintaining peace with neighbors, accumulated over years, forming the foundation for a civilization that valued preparation, foresight, and measured action over impulsive conquest. During this calm era, the city also developed its earliest traditions of record-keeping and public memory. Annals were maintained, lists of officials were recorded, and events were documented in simple, precise ways. This was not done for grandeur or display but to create continuity, to help citizens understand their place in the unfolding story of Rome. Imagine a quiet scribe at work, quill moving slowly across parchment, recording the names of leaders, decisions, and ceremonies with care. These records ensured that each generation could learn from the past, maintaining the slow, deliberate rhythm of history as it unfolded. By the end of this period, Rome had achieved a quiet, stable equilibrium. Its citizens understood the responsibilities of citizenship, its leaders knew the value of shared power, and its institutions provided continuity, order, and reassurance. The city moved like a calm river, steady, patient, and unhurried. Yet beneath that calm flow lay the potential for growth, expansion, and influence that would one day extend far beyond the hills and rivers of central Italy. And so, as night falls gently over the Tiber, as the soft wind brushes the trees and the last light of day fades across the hills, Rome rests in its young, quiet strength. Citizens return to their homes, families share stories, and the city prepares to face the years ahead. It is a time of patience, of preparation, and of gentle growth, laying the foundation for the future in the calm, deliberate ways that will define Rome for centuries to come.
As the early republic matured, Rome began to grow more confident in its ability to govern, defend, and shape its destiny. The city's citizens, who had once lived under kings, now moved with a quiet assurance that their collective choices, traditions, and efforts could guide the fate of their community. Life unfolded slowly, measured by the rising and setting sun, the cycles of planting and harvest, and the soft cadence of civic responsibility. Imagine walking through Rome at dawn, when mist lingers along the riverbanks, the quiet sound of Tiber's water flowing over gentle stones, and the distant crowing of a rooster marking the beginning of another day of patient labor and subtle planning. During this period, Rome faced both internal and external challenges, but each was approached with deliberation rather than haste. Neighboring tribes remained a presence in the surrounding lands, and minor disputes over borders, resources, or alliances required careful negotiation. The city's leaders, often consuls or elected magistrates, guided discussions with measured words, listening intently to the needs of citizens and allies alike. In the soft light of early morning, councils met in courtyards or under trees, the gentle rustle of leaves adding to the calm atmosphere as decisions were slowly considered. Through these steady, unhurried exchanges, Rome reinforced the idea that strength came not only from force, but from wisdom, patience, and consensus. One of the hallmarks of this era was the further development of Rome's legal framework. Laws were slowly codified, refined, and recorded, establishing consistency and fairness in both private and public life. These codes guided relationships between patricians and plebeians, regulated property, resolved disputes, and ensured the smooth functioning of society. Imagine a quiet scribe carefully inscribing each law onto parchment, each word deliberate, each decision weighed with care. This meticulous approach created a sense of stability and continuity, allowing citizens to trust that their city was grounded in order, not impulse. Alongside law and governance, Rome began to expand its influence through careful diplomacy. Treaties were negotiated with neighboring peoples, alliances were formed through marriages and agreements, and mutual respect was cultivated through slow, deliberate interactions. These efforts required patience, observation, and subtle understanding. Imagine emissaries walking quietly along wooded paths to meet leaders of nearby communities, exchanging gifts, sharing meals, and conducting ceremonies that reinforce bonds. Each act, though gentle, carried the power to shape relationships, extend influence, and secure the safety of a city. Trade also played a central role in the life of the early republic. Markets continued to bustle softly, filled with low conversations, the exchange of goods, and the rhythmic movements of daily commerce. Farmers, artisans, and merchants moved carefully through the streets, offering grains, pottery, tools, and textiles. Patricians observed and sometimes participated, while plebeians worked diligently to sustain themselves and their families. In these small, quiet interactions, knowledge, culture, and innovation spread slowly, connecting Rome to the broader world around it. Every exchange added to the city's understanding of trade, economy, and diplomacy, preparing it for more complex interactions in the years ahead. Military organization continued as well, though with a calm and deliberate focus on readiness rather than aggression. Citizens trained in local militias, learning the skills necessary to protect their homes and communities. Drills took place on open fields, each step measured, each formation practiced with patience and care. Soldiers understood their role as defenders, not conquerors, and the city valued discipline, preparation, and coordination above all. Imagine the soft shuffle of sand beneath feet, the faint rustle of armor, and the muted voices of commanders instructing recruits in slow, careful tones. This preparation laid the groundwork for Rome's later success, emphasizing steady effort, teamwork, and enduring commitment. Religion remained a steady presence, guiding both personal and civic life. Temples, shrines, and sacred spaces were maintained with care, festivals and sacrifices observed with reverence. These rituals offered comfort, continuity, and a sense of connection to the natural and divine world. Picture a gentle evening scene. Torches flickering against the walls of a small temple, the murmured prayers of citizens mingling with the rustling leaves and flowing river. These moments provided a calming rhythm, reinforcing social cohesion and reminding citizens of their shared responsibilities and shared faith in the forces that shaped their world. Family life and education also remained central to the city's calm growth. Parents guided their children, teaching them practical skills, moral lessons, and the traditions that linked generations. Elders shared stories of heroes, God, and ancestors, soft voices passing knowledge through quiet evenings and warm fires. Young citizens learned the value of patience, responsibility, and cooperation, absorbing lessons not through force but through gentle example and observation. Imagine a child quietly shaping clay, tending a garden, or listening to a tale of Romulus and Remus, internalizing the slow, steady rhythm of life in Rome. These everyday moments nurture the next generation, ensuring the continuity of culture, values, and civic awareness. Throughout the city, subtle networks of influence and cooperation were forming. Neighborhoods function as small communities within the larger city, each maintaining its own internal rhythm while contributing to the overall harmony of Rome. Citizens learned to respect boundaries, resolve minor conflicts, and support communal projects. Streets and pathways were maintained, water and food distribution occurred without haste, and public spaces were cared for with gentle diligence. In every action, the slow, deliberate heartbeat of the city was evident, a calm, enduring pulse that allowed Rome to grow steadily without disruption. Even as the Republic continued its careful expansion and governance, Rome began to develop an identity distinct from its neighbors. It was a city that valued order, patience, and cooperation, a city where strength was measured not in immediate victories, but in careful preparation, steady growth, and thoughtful interaction with the world around it. The hills, rivers, and fields serve as quiet witnesses to this development, holding the soft echoes of daily life, labor, and learning. Each sunrise brought new opportunities, each evening offered reflection, and the city moved forward with a gentle, persistent rhythm. In this serene period, Rome's citizens, leaders, and communities learned the enduring lesson that greatness comes not from haste, spectacle, or force alone, but from steady effort, careful planning, and the subtle balance of many small, deliberate choices. And as night falls over the Tiber, as a gentle breeze stirs the leaves and the soft light of evening settles across the hills, the city rests, calm and secure, preparing patiently for the challenges, growth, and quiet triumphs that the future will bring. As Rome settled into the rhythms of the Republic, the city began to encounter a broader world beyond its familiar hills, rivers, and valleys. The early experiences of governance, law, and civic responsibility provided a foundation. Yet the city now faced new challenges that required careful thought, observation, and measured action. Expansion was no longer simply a matter of local influence. It involved engaging with other cities, tribes, and cultures, each with its own customs, resources, and perspectives. Imagine walking quietly along a Roman road, the morning mist curling gently around the low hills, as the city prepares to extend its presence into territories still soft with the whispers of untamed nature. The early republic approached these opportunities with patience, considering each decision carefully, weighing risk against benefit, and always mindful of the delicate balance required to maintain internal harmony. Diplomacy became an essential skill for the city's leaders. Emissaries traveled softly along wooded paths and winding roads, meeting leaders of nearby communities with calm, respectful words. Gifts were exchanged, agreements discussed, and ceremonies held to honor mutual respect. Each gesture, though subtle, held weight. The Romans understood that influence grew not only through strength, but also through careful negotiation, observation, and the building of trust. Imagine a quiet hilltop gathering at dusk, the soft glow of firelight reflecting in the eyes of all present, the murmured voices of leaders blending with the gentle rustle of leaves, and the low hum of evening insects. These early interactions were foundational, establishing a network of relationships that would quietly support Rome's future growth. Trade continued to extend the city's reach in gentle, deliberate ways. Small caravans moved slowly along roads and rivers, carrying goods such as grain, wine, olive oil, pottery, and simple crafts. Markets became points of connection, where Romans exchanged not only materials but also knowledge, culture, and technique. Every interaction offered a lesson, whether learning a new method of farming from a neighboring village or observing the design of foreign pottery. Picture a calm market at dawn, soft light spilling across wooden stalls, the low hum of conversation mingling with the distant flow of water and the gentle chirping of birds. These small, everyday exchanges built bridges across communities, forming bonds of cooperation and understanding that strengthened Rome in subtle, lasting ways. Military organization advanced quietly alongside diplomacy and trade. Citizens trained in the art of defense, practiced regularly on open fields, their movements deliberate and precise. Unlike the violent spectacles of later centuries, these exercises were calm and methodical, designed to instill discipline, coordination, and confidence in each participant. Imagine the soft shuffle of feet across grass, the measured alignment of rows of soldiers, and the steady voice of commander giving instructions in slow, controlled tones. Through these preparations, Rome cultivated a readiness that would serve it well in years to come, teaching its citizens to value preparation, patience, and cooperation above impulsive action. Internal governance continued to develop, too, with increasing attention to civic responsibility, legal codes, and public service. Assemblies were held with quiet deliberation, where citizens could voice concerns and share perspectives. Decisions were reached through discussion, careful consideration, and consensus. Patricians provided guidance drawn from experience and tradition, while plebeians contributed insights and labor that ensured the smooth functioning of daily life. Imagine an open courtyard at sunset, the low murmur of citizens debating, the faint rustle of leaves overhead, and the calm, steady rhythm of society learning to govern itself thoughtfully and responsibly. This balance of shared power created a sense of security, trust, and collective purpose that strengthened the city from within. Religion remained central to Roman life, offering continuity and reassurance amidst the city's expanding influence. Temples and shrines were maintained carefully, sacred rituals observed, and festivals held to honor the gods and spirits that guided human existence. The gentle flicker of torchlight, the soft murmur of prayers, and the distant echo of ceremonial music provided a quiet framework for life in the city. Picture citizens gathering in the early evening, speaking softly, presenting offerings with reverence, and feeling the calm presence of divine protection over their homes, families, and communities. These practices reinforce a sense of order, morality, and shared identity, subtly guiding behavior and strengthening the bonds between people. Education, mentorship, and storytelling continued to weave the fabric of Roman culture. Elders and parents passed down traditions, knowledge of law, moral guidance, and the gentle lessons of history. Children observed and absorbed, learning not through force but through careful example, quiet work, and reflective discussion. Imagine a young Roman listening to tales of past leaders, of Romulus and Remus, of the earliest kings, their voice soft, eyes wide, absorbing the rhythms of duty, patience, and resilience. In this way, each generation was prepared not only to manage daily life, but also to participate thoughtfully in governance, diplomacy, and the subtle growth of the Republic. Throughout this period, Rome developed a reputation for measured strength. Its citizens, leaders, and communities learned the art of balance, negotiating with neighbors while maintaining internal stability, preparing for defense without rushing into conflict, and growing influence gently rather than imposing it forcefully. The city's expansion was deliberate, its systems thoughtful, and its identity rooted in calm, enduring principles. Imagine the Tiber flowing slowly past the city's walls, reflecting the soft light of dawn, a quiet witness to every small decision, every careful negotiation, and every incremental step toward a more connected, stable society. As Rome's presence extended, its understanding of human nature deepened. Leaders observed patience, cooperation, and conflict, learning how to shape policies that preserve harmony while supporting growth. Citizens witnessed a balance of duty and reward, guidance and participation, wisdom and observation. The Republic matured subtly, as if each day were a quiet lesson in restraint, strategy, and the art of community. Even small events, resolving a dispute, negotiating a trade, organizing a festival, contributed to a growing culture of responsibility and foresight. These gentle lessons became the threads that held the city together, forming the invisible architecture upon which Rome's later achievements would rest. By the end of this era, Rome had established itself as a calm yet resilient city, a place where influence, preparation, and cooperation intertwined. Citizens moved through their days with purpose but without haste, guided by law, tradition, and the soft pulse of civic life. Leaders exercised authority with measured care. Diplomats negotiated with patience, and soldiers trained quietly to ensure the city's security. In this subtle, deliberate manner, the early republic created the foundation for the enduring strength, adaptability, and cohesion that would allow Rome to thrive in the centuries to come. As Rome settled deeper into its early republican structure, the city began to turn its attention toward cultivating a stronger sense of identity and shared purpose among its people. The republic was young, and the citizens, patricians and plebeians alike, were learning to navigate the responsibilities and privileges of participation. Life moved with the soft cadence of everyday labor, guided by the steady rhythms of the Tiber River, the gentle roll of the surrounding hills, and the measured work of countless hands shaping the city. Imagine the quiet sound of water flowing over stones, the low murmur of conversation between neighbors, the rhythmic tapping of tools in workshops, and the calm footsteps of people crossing cobblestone streets. Each of these small details, seemingly ordinary, was part of the quiet process by which Rome was building cohesion, culture, and strength. Education and the transmission of knowledge became increasingly important. Citizens learned not only practical skills for farming, trading, and craft, but also the traditions, moral lessons, and civic responsibilities that anchored the Republic. Elders and parents passed on the stories of heroes, gods, and past leaders with deliberate care. Children listened, absorbing both the content and the rhythm of these tales, learning to internalize the principles of patience, duty, and balance. Imagine a quiet evening in a humble Roman home. The flicker of a small oil lamp illuminating the walls, a parent or elder speaking softly, a child's eyes reflecting the warm light, and the gentle hum of night settling outside. These small, intimate moments shaped the next generation, preparing them to participate thoughtfully in civic life and understand their role within the broader tapestry of the city. The legal and civic systems continued to evolve, always guided by careful deliberation and attention to fairness. Laws were refined, disputes were mediated with patience, and assemblies provided opportunities for citizens to participate in shaping their community. Imagine a courtyard filled with quiet discussion, voices blending gently with the rustling leaves overhead, as people present their points with respect and attentiveness. The city learned to balance authority with input from the citizenry, creating a sense of shared ownership and responsibility. This gentle equilibrium reinforced stability and allowed the Republic to operate efficiently without rushing decisions or imposing order through fear. Military organization also remained a quiet but essential part of Roman life. Training was conducted with a focus on discipline, coordination, and preparedness rather than immediate conquest. Citizens practiced their formations and exercises slowly and methodically, gaining confidence in their abilities, while building camaraderie and mutual trust. Imagine soldiers marching across open fields at dawn, the soft shuffle of their feet on grass, their movements precise and deliberate, the low murmur commands guiding them in calm, steady rhythms. This careful preparation instilled not only skill but patience, endurance, and a collective sense of responsibility, preparing Rome for the future challenges it would face without ever rushing toward them. Trade and interaction with neighboring communities deepened Rome's understanding of diplomacy, resources, and cultural exchange. Caravans moved along rivers and roads, carrying grains, oil, wine, pottery, and simple crafts. Markets provided opportunities for citizens to connect with one another and with outsiders, exchanging knowledge as well as goods. Picture a quiet market at early morning, the soft glow of sunrise illuminating stalls, the gentle chatter of traders, and the rhythmic passing of baskets and parcels. Through these slow interactions, Rome absorbed new ideas, refined its economic practices, and strengthened social bonds, all without disturbing the calm, measured pace of life. Religion continued to serve as a stabilizing presence, guiding both private and public life. Temples and shrines remained carefully maintained, rituals and festivals observed with devotion, and quiet prayers offered at dawn and dusk. The gentle flicker of candlelight, the soft murmur of voices, and the rhythmic repetition of ritual created a soothing rhythm for the city. Imagine citizens gathering in the early evening, offering thanks to the gods, sharing food and conversation, and feeling the reassurance of connection to the forces that shaped the world around them. These practices nurtured unity, trust, and a sense of continuity, providing a spiritual framework that complemented the Republic's political and social systems. Family life remained a cornerstone of Roman culture. Parents guided children through daily tasks, moral instruction, and storytelling, fostering both practical skills and the wisdom of tradition. Elders shared the quiet lessons of history, the achievements and failures of past leaders, and the gentle guidance of ancestral knowledge. Children learned to observe, reflect, and participate patiently in the life of their households and the wider community. Imagine a child tending a small garden, carefully learning to plant seeds and nurture growth, understanding through experience the patience and care necessary for success. These everyday acts reinforce the values of diligence, respect, and cooperation, ensuring that the future citizens of Rome would carry the lessons of the past into their own lives. The interplay of civic responsibility, education, family guidance, religion, and preparation for defense created a subtle but enduring foundation for the city. Every small act, repairing a pathway, observing a ritual, mentoring a child, negotiating a trade, practicing formations in the field, added a layer to the quiet resilience of Rome. Life moved slowly and deliberately, yet each moment contributed to the gradual strengthening of social cohesion, identity, and shared purpose. The city was learning to thrive not through impulsive expansion or displays of power, but through patience, reflection, and careful cultivation of both people and institutions. By the end of this period, Rome had begun to establish a sense of stability and confidence. Citizens understood their roles within the community. Leaders exercised authority thoughtfully, and systems of law, education, and ritual reinforced shared values. The city's outward presence in surrounding lands was matched by its inward strength, rooted in careful planning, harmonious relationships, and a deep respect for tradition. Imagine the sun dipping below the hills, casting a soft glow across the rooftops and riverbanks, the streets quieting as citizens return home, the gentle rhythm of life carrying forward in calm assurance. In this serene atmosphere, the foundations of Rome's enduring success were being laid, steady, deliberate, and imbued with the quiet wisdom of generations. As Rome's republic matured, the city began to sense the subtle power of its own influence spreading quietly across the surrounding lands. The hills, rivers, and plains of central Italy were no longer simply a backdrop to daily life. They had become a stage for measured diplomacy, careful negotiation, and the gentle exercise of authority. Rome's citizens, leaders, and soldiers were learning to navigate relationships with neighboring communities with patience and foresight. There was no rush, no overwhelming urgency, only the soft rhythm of steps taken deliberately, each decision weighed carefully, each action considered for its long-term impact. Imagine walking through a quiet Roman settlement in the early morning, the sun just cresting the hills, casting soft light over fields and workshops, while elders discuss agreements with neighboring tribes, their voices low and deliberate, like the soft murmur of the river nearby. Diplomacy was now one of Rome's most powerful tools. Envoys and emissaries traveled slowly, observing customs, listening to concerns, and establishing trust with leaders of neighboring cities and villages. Exchanges were conducted with careful attention, gifts chosen to honor traditions and foster goodwill, and promises made in the calmest, most respectful terms. Picture a soft courtyard at dusk, with representatives from two communities sitting across from each other, the flicker of torchlight casting shadows on stone walls, their words measured, deliberate, and full of intention. Through such interactions, Rome learned that influence did not always require force, that patience, understanding, and subtle persuasion could achieve results far more enduring than hurried action or coercion. Trade routes expanded gently, carrying goods, ideas, and knowledge between Rome and the surrounding territories. Caravans moved slowly along winding paths, the wheels of carts creaking softly, donkeys stepping carefully over cobblestones, and merchants speaking quietly with one another as they passed through forests and small settlements. Grain, olive oil, wine, pottery, and crafted tools traveled along these routes, each exchange contributing not only to the city's wealth, but also to its understanding of the wider world. Markets became spaces of calm interaction, where neighbors met to share news, observe foreign techniques, and learn from one another. Imagine a gentle sunrise illuminating a quiet market square, the aroma of fresh bread and herbs blending with the soft murmur of conversation, and the rhythmic passing of goods, small, deliberate movements, creating a steady pulse of connection across communities. The military, too, continued to develop in quiet, methodical ways. Citizens trained regularly, honing their skills in formation, defense, and coordination. Exercises were slow, precise, and repetitive, emphasizing patience and discipline as much as strength or strategy. Picture young Roman soldiers practicing in the soft light of dawn, the gentle shuffle of feet against grass, the low hum of instructions carried across the field. Each movement was deliberate, each formation maintained with care, fostering a sense of teamwork and shared responsibility. These preparations were never rushed. They were intended to cultivate confidence, endurance, and readiness, a slow, steady fortification of the city's security and resilience. Alongside these practical developments, Rome deepened its legal and civic structures. Laws were carefully written, debated, and applied with attention to fairness and precedent. Assemblies allowed citizens to discuss matters openly, offering opinions and contributing to the slow, steady development of governance. Imagine the soft voices of citizens in an open courtyard, rising and falling like the gentle flow of a stream. Elders guiding discussion with measured words, and decisions reached through patient consideration rather than haste. Through these processes, the Republic reinforced a sense of shared responsibility, trust, and respect among its people, creating an invisible web of cohesion that strengthened both community and state. Religion continued to provide continuity, guidance, and reassurance throughout this period. Temples and shrines were maintained with care, rituals performed with devotion, and festivals observed to honor the gods and celebrate the cycles of life. Picture a quiet evening festival, the air filled with a faint scent of burning incense, torches flickering softly against the stone walls of the temple, and the gentle murmur of prayers rising into the night sky. These rituals reinforce shared values and create a calming rhythm for daily life, reminding citizens that their actions were part of a larger, ordered world, both natural and divine. The quiet presence of religion in daily life shaped morality, behavior, and social harmony, subtly guiding the city as it expanded and matured. Family and education remained central to Rome's calm development. Parents and elders guided children in practical skills, moral understanding, and traditions that connected generations. Stories of past leaders, myths, and the early kings of Rome were told in soft voices, often by the flickering light of oil lamps, instilling a sense of history, duty, and continuity. Imagine a young child listening intently, absorbing lessons of patience, honor, and cooperation, learning the rhythms of life through careful observation and gentle instruction. These quiet, formative moments ensured that each generation would carry forward the values, wisdom, and traditions that had shaped the city so far. Through the combined efforts of diplomacy, trade, military discipline, law, religion, and family guidance, Rome quietly strengthened its foundation. Every small act contributed to a sense of unity, resilience, and shared purpose. The city's growth was never abrupt or chaotic. It was deliberate, careful, and patient, like the slow rise of the morning sun over the hills. Citizens learned that enduring strength was built not from impulsive action, but from steady cultivation of relationships, skills, and knowledge. Each day added a subtle layer to the city's structure, reinforcing the Republic's ability to adapt and thrive. By the end of this period, Rome had begun to cultivate a quiet confidence. Its citizens understood the rhythms of governance, the importance of collaboration, and the benefits of patience. Leaders exercised authority thoughtfully, emissaries negotiated calmly, and communities worked together to maintain the slow, steady heartbeat of the city. The Tiber flowed silently past the city's walls, reflecting the soft glow of dawn and dusk, as Rome moved forward with measured grace, prepared for challenges, growth, and transformations that the future would bring. The Republic had learned to thrive not in haste or force, but in the calm, deliberate orchestration of people, resources, and values, a foundation that would support centuries of enduring influence and quiet greatness. As Rome's Republic settled into its steady rhythms, the city began to experience a growing awareness of its own potential and responsibility. The young Republic had learned much from its early struggles, from the careful balance of power between patricians and plebeians, from measured interactions with neighboring communities, and from the slow, deliberate cultivation of law, religion, and civic responsibility. Now, the city's citizens, leaders, and soldiers began to sense that the foundations laid over generations were creating a framework capable of supporting something greater. Life continued in its calm cadence, but beneath the gentle surface, Rome's potential was quietly expanding, like roots slowly stretching through fertile soil, gathering strength and stability with patience and care. This period was marked by a deepening commitment to civic engagement. Citizens began to understand more clearly the value of their voices, their labor, and their participation in the Republic. Assemblies, councils, and forums offered spaces for discussion, reflection, and decision-making, each conversation conducted with measured care. Imagine a courtyard bathed in the soft glow of morning light. Citizens seated in respectful attention as elders and magistrates speak quietly, ideas exchanged like gentle ripples across a still pond. Through these calm, deliberate discussions, the city developed a shared sense of purpose, recognizing that every individual's contribution, no matter how small, was part of the slow, steady growth of the Republic. The military continued to develop alongside civic life, though it was approached with a careful sense of restraint and readiness rather than aggression. Citizens trained in formations, discipline, and coordination, practicing slowly, deliberately, and repetitively until each motion became instinctive. Picture a soft morning field, the faint rustle of leaves overhead, soldiers moving in unison with the low hum of commands, each footstep precise, each turn measured. This training instilled confidence, patience, and teamwork, creating a force that was not only skilled but resilient and composed. The military became a mirror of the city's broader character, steady, deliberate, and attentive to the lessons of time. Trade and commerce quietly linked Rome to the wider world. Goods, ideas, and knowledge moved slowly along roads and rivers, connecting the city to neighboring towns, distant villages, and far-off settlements. Markets thrived with soft activity, the gentle clinking of coins, the low murmur of conversation, and the careful passing of goods from hand to hand. Imagine early morning sunlight streaming over a marketplace, illuminating baskets of grain, jars of oil, and handcrafted tools, while citizens exchange news, observe techniques, and foster trust through calm interaction. These seemingly ordinary acts were essential in establishing Rome's reputation as a thoughtful, reliable, and patient partner in the region. Religion continued to guide daily life with quiet constancy. Temples and shrines were maintained with care, rituals observed with devotion, and festivals celebrated with reverence. Citizens moved slowly through sacred spaces, offering prayers, lighting torches, and sharing small offerings, all while feeling the subtle reassurance of divine presence. Imagine a soft evening scene, the flicker of candlelight dancing across stone walls, a gentle breeze carrying the faint scent of incense, and the harmonious hum of voices joining in prayer. These sacred routines provided continuity, comfort, and cohesion, reminding the people that their individual and collective actions were part of a larger, enduring pattern that linked the mortal and divine. Education, mentorship, and storytelling remained central to the Republic's calm development. Elders shared lessons of history, morality, and civic duty, weaving narratives that carried both instruction and reflection. Children observed, absorbed, and imitated, learning skills, ethics, and traditions in quiet, deliberate ways. Picture a small family at dusk, a parent recounting tales of early leaders, heroes, and myths, while a child listens intently, internalizing lessons about patience, responsibility, and the value of measured action. These soft, formative moments ensured that each generation would grow into citizens capable of sustaining the city's delicate balance, guiding it gently toward a stronger and more cohesive future. Throughout this period, Rome's internal harmony and external interactions created a subtle but enduring strength. Laws were refined and applied with fairness. Civic duties were observed with care, and military training instilled discipline without haste or recklessness. The city learned that endurance and stability were achieved through patience, observation, and cooperation. Imagine the Tiber flowing silently past the city walls, reflecting the warm light of dawn and dusk, a quiet witness to the steady unfolding of society rooted in calm, deliberate action. Each day, each small decision, and each gentle negotiation contributed to the slow construction of a resilient, thoughtful republic. As Rome's influence extended across central Italy, the city maintained its quiet balance. Alliances were nurtured through diplomacy, trade networks were expanded with care, and neighboring communities were engaged with respect and foresight. Citizens, leaders, and soldiers alike understood the importance of measured steps, subtle observation, and thoughtful engagement. The Republic moved forward steadily, never rushing, never imposing, but growing gently, like the soft spread of sunlight across the hills, shaping the landscape without force, marking progress with patience, and preparing the city for future challenges and opportunities. By the end of this period, Rome had achieved a remarkable equilibrium. Its citizens were connected through shared purpose, its leaders exercised authority with wisdom, and its institutions were firmly rooted in law, tradition, and cultural continuity. The city's outward reach matched its inward cohesion, creating a foundation of calm strength that would carry Rome through generations. And as night falls softly over the Tiber, as the hills cradle the city in their gentle embrace, and as torches flicker quietly in homes and temples, the Republic rests in serene confidence, ready to face the centuries ahead, guided by the enduring principles of patience, reflection, and measured action that define its character. As Rome's republic continued to mature, the city began to experience the quiet rhythms of growth and stability that had been cultivated over generations. Citizens moved through their daily lives with a sense of purpose, yet without urgency, guided by the gentle flow of the Tiber and the soft contours of surrounding hills. Families tended gardens and livestock, artisans shaped clay and metal with careful hands, and merchants arranged goods in quiet markets, all moving to the steady rhythm of life that defined the young republic. Imagine walking along narrow cobblestone streets at dawn, the soft light spilling over rooftops, the gentle murmur conversation in the air, and the distant sound of flowing water, a city breathing calmly, preparing for both the present and the future with quiet deliberation. During this period, Rome's citizens deepened their understanding of law, duty, and civic engagement. The codified legal system provided structure for daily life, guiding property disputes, family responsibilities, and community relations. Assemblies and councils became places where voices could be heard, where issues were discussed thoughtfully, and where decisions were made through consensus rather than haste. Picture a quiet courtyard filled with citizens listening attentively to a magistrate speaking, the leaves of nearby trees rustling softly in the breeze, the city moving in gentle unison as individuals contribute to a shared purpose. These subtle practices strengthen both the city's internal cohesion and the confidence of its people, fostering a sense of belonging and responsibility that would endure for generations. Trade and interaction with neighboring communities continued to flourish, further weaving Rome into a broader regional network. Caravans traveled slowly along carefully maintained roads, carrying grain, wine, olive oil, pottery, and other goods. Markets, both within the city and in surrounding settlements, became spaces of calm exchange, where knowledge, ideas, and culture traveled alongside material goods. Imagine the soft light of morning reflecting off jars of oil and bundles of grain, the gentle rhythm of footsteps as traders move about, and the low hum of voices sharing news, techniques, and advice. Each transaction, however small, contributed to the slow but steady expansion of Rome's influence, as the city cultivated relationships based on trust, cooperation, and mutual benefit. Military preparedness remained a quiet but essential aspect of civic life. Citizens trained regularly in disciplined exercises, focusing on coordination, patience, and the development of collective skill. Drills took place in open field at dawn, with the soft shuffle of feet against grass, the measured guidance of commanders, and the careful repetition of formations. This training was less about immediate conquest and more about instilling confidence, endurance, and a sense of responsibility among the people. Imagine soldiers moving in unison beneath the soft glow of morning, their movements deliberate and precise, a testament to the city's philosophy of slow, steady preparation and resilience. Religion continued to offer structure, reassurance, and a gentle rhythm to daily life. Temples and shrines were maintained with care, rituals performed with devotion, and festivals celebrated to honor the gods and the cycles of nature. Picture an evening scene, the warm glow of torches flickering across stone walls, incense curling gently into the air, and citizens softly chanting prayers that echo like whispers across the hills. These practices nurtured unity, reinforced values, and provided a sense of continuity, reminding citizens that their efforts were part of a larger, enduring order. The calm presence of religion intertwined seamlessly with the civic and social life of the city, guiding both thought and action. Education and the transmission of knowledge were quietly but profoundly important during this period. Elders, parents, and mentors shared stories of heroes, ancestors, and gods, weaving lessons of morality, duty, and patience into everyday life. Children observed, absorbed, and practiced these teachings, learning through repetition, reflection, and gentle guidance. Imagine a young Roman child carefully shaping clay, listening to a story of Romulus and Remus, and internalizing the lessons of persistence, courage, and respect for tradition. Each moment of learning reinforced the values necessary for the continuation of a thoughtful, resilient, and cohesive society. Small acts of civic service became part of the daily rhythm, further strengthening Rome's social fabric. Citizens maintained roads, repaired public spaces, and tended shared resources, all with quiet diligence and care. Imagine neighbors working together to reinforce a bridge, the soft clinking of tools echoing in the morning air, the sound blending harmoniously with birdsong and the flow of the river. Each small contribution created a web of interdependence, connecting individuals to the larger purpose of the Republic and instilling a sense of pride, responsibility, and shared achievement. Through these combined practices, law, education, military readiness, trade, religion, and civic engagement, Rome cultivated a slow but steady power that was deeply resilient. The city's growth was deliberate, its influence expanding without haste, and its institutions becoming increasingly capable of managing both internal stability and external relations. Imagine the gentle rise of the sun over the hills surrounding the city, casting soft light across rooftops, streets, and fields as Rome moves with calm confidence, quietly preparing for the opportunities and challenges of the years ahead. By the end of this period, the Republic had established a balance between internal cohesion and outward influence, between discipline and compassion, between preparation and reflection. Citizens understood their roles, leaders guided thoughtfully, and communities worked in gentle harmony to maintain order and continuity. The city, like a slowly flowing river, had gathered strength beneath its calm surface, ready to shape its destiny in the centuries to come. And as night falls softly over the Tiber, as the soft glow of lamps illuminates homes and temples, and as the city breathes quietly in the rhythm of its people, Rome rests in serene confidence, grounded in patience, preparation, and the enduring strength of its careful, deliberate growth. As Rome continued its quiet journey through the early years of the Republic, the city began to experience a deeper sense of cohesion, identity, and purpose. The foundations laid by law, civic responsibility, and thoughtful governance had begun to bear fruit, creating a society in which citizens, leaders, and families moved in gentle harmony, each contributing to the slow, steady rhythm of life. Imagine walking along the Tiber at sunrise, the water reflecting the soft gold of the morning, the cobblestone streets damp with dew, the faint murmur of citizens exchanging greetings, traders arranging goods in the quiet market, and children following elders to learn the customs and lessons of the city. Every sound, every movement, and every interaction contributed to the unfolding story of Rome, a city growing not through haste or spectacle, but through patient cultivation of order, skill, and understanding. During this period, the balance between internal governance and external interaction became increasingly refined. Assemblies and councils offered citizens opportunities to participate in decisions, to debate issues thoughtfully, and to learn the rhythms of responsible leadership. Imagine a courtyard at dawn, the soft rustle of leaves overhead, voices rising and falling like gentle waves, elders guiding discussions with measured patience, and each participant contributing in turn. Through these calm, deliberate exchanges, citizens develop a sense of shared purpose, understanding that each small action, from tending a field to attending an assembly, contributes to the strength and stability of the Republic. Trade networks continue to expand quietly, connecting Rome with neighboring settlements, towns, and distant communities. Caravans moved at a steady pace along winding roads, carrying grains, wine, olive oil, pottery, and crafted tools. The markets in city and surrounding villages became places of gentle exchange, where knowledge, ideas, and customs traveled alongside goods. Picture a soft morning in a market square, sunlight streaming over wooden stalls, baskets brimming with produce, jars of oil reflecting the light, and citizens exchanging not only goods but lessons, stories, and innovations. Each transaction, each small conversation, helped to strengthen the bonds between Rome and its neighbors, building trust, cooperation, and influence without the need for force or haste. The military, while increasingly organized and disciplined, continued to train with a focus on patience, coordination, and long-term preparedness. Citizens practiced drills with calm precision, learning to move in unison, maintain formation, and anticipate one another's actions. Imagine open fields at dawn, the soft shuffle of feet on grass, the low hum of measured instructions, and soldiers moving in deliberate rhythm, building confidence, endurance, and unity. These exercises reinforce not only tactical skill, but the values of cooperation, responsibility, and quiet strength, ensuring that Rome's defense remained reliable without disrupting the steady life of the city. Religion continued to provide stability, guidance, and reassurance throughout daily life. Temples, shrines, and sacred spaces were cared for meticulously, while rituals and festivals reinforced shared beliefs and values. Picture the glow of torchlight flickering across the walls of a temple in the evening, incense curling softly into the air, citizens softly chanting prayers, their voices blending with the murmur of the river and the rustling of leaves. These quiet moments nurtured unity, comfort, and a sense of continuity, reminding Romans that their lives were part of larger, enduring order governed by both human and divine principles. Education and family life were integral to maintaining the calm rhythm of the city. Parents and elders shared practical skills, moral guidance, and the history of Rome, often through storytelling by lamplight or around the hearth. Children learned through observation, gentle instruction, and reflection, absorbing lessons about patience, responsibility, cooperation, and resilience. Imagine a child carefully shaping clay while listening to a tale of past heroes, absorbing both the narrative and the underlying principles of honor, wisdom, and foresight. These quiet, formative experiences ensured that each generation would continue the traditions and values necessary to sustain the Republic. Civic engagement extended into small acts of service and communal responsibility. Citizens repaired roads, maintained public spaces, and contributed to shared projects with careful attention, each task performed with a sense of duty and pride. Imagine neighbors working side by side to repair a bridge, the soft clinking of tools blending with bird song and the gentle flow of water, each contribution reinforcing the interconnected web of the city. These everyday actions, small as they might seem, strengthened social cohesion, fostered trust, and cultivated a sense of collective accomplishment, building an invisible yet powerful foundation for Rome's enduring success. Through the combined efforts of law, diplomacy, trade, military discipline, education, family guidance, and religious observance, Rome's republic quietly built resilience, adaptability, and strength. Life moved at a deliberate pace, each day layering subtle progress upon the last. The city's citizens learned that enduring power was not achieved through impulse or aggression, but through patience, reflection, and careful cultivation of relationships, skills, and institutions. The Tiber flowed silently past the city walls, reflecting the soft glow of sunrise and sunset, witnessing the gradual unfolding of society rooted in calm, deliberate growth. By the end of this period, Rome had achieved a remarkable equilibrium between internal stability and outward influence. Citizens, leaders, and communities moved in gentle harmony, maintaining order, nurturing growth, and preparing for future challenges. The city's foundations, laid over generations of patient effort, were now solid, allowing Rome to face the years ahead with confidence, wisdom, and enduring calm. As night falls softly over the Tiber, as the hills cradle the city in their gentle embrace, and as the lights of homes and temples glow quietly across the rooftops, Rome rests in serene strength. its steady heartbeat echoing the slow, deliberate rhythm that has defined its journey and will guide its path for generations to come. As Rome continued to grow quietly in both size and influence, the Republic began to experience a period of subtle transformation, guided by the careful interplay of law, civic responsibility, and cultural tradition. Citizens moved through their days with a steady rhythm of routine. Yet beneath the surface, the city was developing a deeper sense of purpose and cohesion. Imagine strolling along the Tiber at dawn, the water reflecting the soft, pale light of morning, the streets nearly empty, save for a few early risers, merchants preparing stalls, farmers bringing fresh produce from nearby fields, and children following parents to observe or assist in daily tasks. Every movement, every sound, every quiet exchange contributed to the unfolding story of Rome, a city growing not through haste or spectacle, but through the slow accumulation of knowledge, skill, and community. Diplomatic efforts became increasingly sophisticated, as Rome's leaders learned to balance patience with influence. Envoys traveled deliberately to neighboring communities, observing customs, listening intently, and cultivating trust. Gifts were presented with care. Words were measured, and agreements were framed to honor both parties' interests. Imagine a quiet gathering at sunset, leaders seated across from one another, the flicker of torchlight dancing across stone walls, the distant murmur of a river, and voices rising and falling in calm negotiation. Through such measured interactions, Rome expanded its reach and reputation, slowly weaving a network of alliances that strengthened the Republic without ever resorting to aggression or force. Trade flourished in a similarly gentle manner. Caravans moved along roads and river paths, carrying grain, olive oil, wine, pottery, and handcrafted tools. Markets in the city and surrounding villages became spaces for the exchange of goods, knowledge, and cultural practices. Imagine the soft morning sun illuminating a market square, jars of oil glinting in the light, baskets of grain stacked neatly, merchants speaking in low, steady voices, and neighbors exchanging both goods and quiet conversation. Each of these small interactions reinforced trust, promoted cooperation, and contributed to the gradual, measured expansion of Rome's influence. The military remained disciplined and organized, but training emphasized careful preparation, coordination, and endurance rather than immediate conquest. Citizens practiced formations and exercises with patience and repetition, learning to work together and anticipate one another's actions. Picture a group of young soldiers at dawn, moving in unison across soft grass, the low hum of instructions carried across the field, each step deliberate and precise. This approach instilled both skill and confidence, ensuring that Rome's defense was reliable while maintaining the calm, measured pace of life throughout the city. Religion continued to provide a sense of stability and continuity. Temples, shrines, and sacred spaces were maintained meticulously, and rituals, sacrifices, and festivals offered gentle rhythms that shaped daily life. Picture an evening scene at a temple. Torches flickering against stone walls, incense curling softly into the air, and citizens offering quiet prayers, their voices blending with the rustling of leaves and the distant flow of the river. These moments reinforced shared values, nurtured unity, and created a calm, comforting framework for both public and private life, reminding citizens of the delicate balance between the human and divine. Education and family guidance remained central to the quiet shaping of Roman society. Parents, elders, and mentors passed on practical skills, moral lessons, and the history of the Republic, often through storytelling by the glow of an oil lamp. Children observed, absorbed, and practiced what they learned with patience and reflection, internalizing the rhythms of civic duty, cooperation, and moral responsibility. Imagine a child carefully crafting a small clay figure while listening to tales of Romulus and Remus or heroic leaders from Rome's past, absorbing lessons of courage, patience, and foresight. These moments reinforce the cultural and civic continuity necessary to sustain the Republic and cultivate its future citizens. Small, deliberate acts of civic service also strengthened Rome's social fabric. Citizens repaired streets, tended public spaces, and supported communal projects with quiet diligence. Imagine neighbors working side by side to reinforce a bridge or maintain an irrigation channel, the soft clinking of tools blending with birdsong and the gentle flow of a nearby stream. These everyday actions, though subtle, cultivated interconnectedness, trust, and a sense of shared accomplishment, quietly reinforcing the Republic's stability and resilience. Through these combined efforts, civic participation, diplomacy, trade, military discipline, religion, education, and public service, Rome built a slow, steady, and enduring strength. Life moved deliberately, each day layering subtle progress upon the last, each quiet interaction contributing to the stability and cohesion of the Republic. The Tiber flowed silently past the city walls, reflecting the soft light of dawn and dusk, witnessing the patient unfolding of society grounded in calm, deliberate action. Each sunrise brought new opportunities, each evening offered reflection, and the city moved forward with steady, deliberate rhythm. By the end of this period, Rome had achieved a balance between inward stability and outward influence, between preparation and action, and between tradition and adaptation. Citizens understood their roles, leaders exercised authority thoughtfully, and communities worked together in gentle harmony. The city, like the slowly flowing river, had gathered strength beneath a calm surface, ready to shape its destiny in the years to come. And as night falls softly over the Tiber, as the hills cradle the city in their gentle embrace, and as lights glow quietly in homes and temples, Rome rests in serene confidence, its steady heartbeat echoing the slow, deliberate rhythm that has guided its growth and will continue to guide its path through the centuries ahead. As Rome continued to mature and extend its influence, the city entered a period marked by quiet reflection, careful planning, and deliberate action. The young republic had grown steadily, learning patience through experience and building strength through the measured cultivation of law, civic responsibility, and communal cooperation. Citizens moved through their daily lives with a sense of purpose, yet without hurry, guided by the soft rhythm of the Tiber, the rolling hills, and the gentle patterns of everyday work. Imagine walking along the river at dawn, the cool air carrying the faint scent of earth and water, merchants quietly arranging their goods, children trailing behind elders to learn the ways of the city, and the soft murmur of conversation blending with the distant sound of livestock in the fields. Each subtle sound and movement formed part of the city's living, breathing story, a story built slowly, with attention, care, and foresight. During this period, diplomacy remained a vital instrument of Rome's growth. Envoys traveled deliberately to neighboring communities, observing customs, learning local practices, and fostering trust through patient, respectful negotiation. Gifts and gestures were chosen with thoughtfulness, words were spoken with care, and agreements were framed to benefit all parties involved. Picture a quiet courtyard at dusk, the low flicker torches illuminating stone walls, leaders seated calmly across from one another, their conversation steady, deliberate, and full of intention. Through these careful interactions, Rome extended its influence subtly, cultivating loyalty and respect without the need for coercion, asserting its presence through patience, understanding, and the quiet power of reputation. Trade and commerce flourished alongside diplomacy, connecting Rome to the wider region in gentle, deliberate ways. Caravans move along roads and rivers, carrying grains, olive oil, wine, pottery, and simple crafts. Markets became spaces not just for exchange of goods, but for the sharing of knowledge, skills, and culture. Imagine the soft morning sun illuminating a marketplace, the aroma of fresh bread mingling with the scent of herbs, baskets brimming with produce, merchants speaking in low, steady tones, and neighbors exchanging not only material goods, but also stories, advice, and quiet lessons. Through these small, unhurried interactions, Rome nurtured relationships, strengthened economic connections, and built a subtle but growing influence across the surrounding lands. Military organization continued to advance, though always approached with patience and thoughtfulness. Citizens trained in formations, discipline, and strategy, moving deliberately in exercises designed to build confidence, endurance, and coordination. Picture soldiers practicing at dawn on open fields, the gentle shuffle of their feet on grass, the soft murmur of commands, and the careful repetition of movements until every action was instinctive. Training emphasized cooperation, responsibility, and calm precision, reinforcing both practical skill and the deeper understanding that readiness was built over time, not in moment of haste. The military, like the Republic itself, moved forward with a quiet, steady resilience that would serve the city in the years to come. Religion maintained its central role in guiding daily life, offering continuity, reassurance, and a sense of shared purpose. Temples and shrines were cared for with attention, rituals performed with devotion, and festivals observed to mark cycles of life, honor the gods, and celebrate communal bonds. Picture an evening scene, the soft glow of torches illuminating stone walls, incense curling into the cool night air, and citizens murmuring prayers that rise gently into the sky. These quiet ceremonies reinforce morality, community cohesion, and the comforting sense that the city's life was intertwined with forces larger than themselves, nurturing stability and continuity amidst change. Education and the transmission of knowledge remained a quiet but powerful force. Elders and parents shared practical skills, civic lessons, and stories of Rome's heroes, gods, and leaders with soft, measured voices. Children absorbed these teachings through observation, repetition, and reflection, gradually internalizing lessons of patience, duty, and cooperation. Imagine a child quietly practicing weaving, listening to a story about a great Roman hero, eyes wide, hands steady, and mind absorbing not only the story but the principles woven within it. These formative moments, repeated day after day, created a generation capable of sustaining the Republic, understanding its values, and continuing its slow, deliberate path toward growth and stability. Civic service and public responsibility became integrated into daily life. Citizens repaired roads, maintained public spaces, and assisted with communal projects with quiet diligence. Imagine neighbors working together to maintain a bridge or reinforce a city wall, the gentle clinking of tools blending with the soft rustle of trees, and the flowing river nearby providing a constant, calming background. These seemingly ordinary acts strengthened social bonds, cultivated trust, and reinforced a republic's sense of shared purpose, adding layer upon layer to Rome's steady and enduring foundation. Through these combined practices, civic engagement, diplomacy, trade, military discipline, religion, education, and public service, Rome continued to build a resilient, patient, and thoughtful society. Life moved deliberately, each day layering quiet progress upon the last, each small action contributing to stability, cohesion, and strength. The Tiber flowed silently past the city walls, reflecting the soft glow of sunrise and sunset, witnessing the careful growth of a city grounded in measured action and steady rhythm. By the end of this period, Rome had achieved a calm balance between internal stability and outward influence. Citizens, leaders, and communities moved in gentle harmony, maintaining order, nurturing growth, and preparing for the future with steady patience. The city, like a slowly flowing river, had gathered strength beneath its calm surface, ready to continue shaping its destiny in the centuries ahead. As night falls softly over the Tiber, as hills cradle the city in their gentle embrace, and as homes and temples glow warmly with lamplight, Rome rests in serene confidence, its slow, deliberate heartbeat echoing the careful, measured rhythm that has guided its journey and will continue to guide its path through the ages. As Rome approached the later stages of its early republic, the city's life moved with a quiet, deliberate rhythm, shaped by centuries of careful cultivation, learning, and growth. Citizens had grown accustomed to the gentle cadence of daily responsibilities, from tending gardens and managing trades to participating in assemblies and observing rituals. Imagine strolling through the city at dawn, the Tiber reflecting the soft glow of morning, the faint rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze, the distant sound of water flowing over stones, and the murmur of neighbors greeting each other in low, steady voices. Each moment, each quiet exchange, contributed to the steady unfolding of Rome's story, reinforcing the invisible threads of cohesion, discipline, and shared purpose that bound the Republic together. During this period, civic life was defined by an intricate balance of participation, duty, and reflection. Citizens attended assemblies, engaged in debates, and contributed to communal decisions with patience and care. Picture a courtyard filled with attentive citizens, the soft flutter of parchment in hands, voices rising and falling gently as ideas are considered thoughtfully, elders guiding discussions with measured words, and agreements reached through consensus rather than haste. This deliberate approach instilled a profound sense of responsibility in the people, teaching them that each small act, whether repairing a street, tending a field, or offering advice in assembly, was part of a larger, slow-moving current that sustained the Republic. Rome's influence over neighboring communities deepened through quiet diplomacy. Envoys traveled carefully, observing customs, listening intently, and building trust over time. Gifts, gestures, and words were chosen with careful thought, framed to honor both the city and its neighbors. Imagine a soft evening scene in a shaded courtyard, leaders seated across from one another, torchlight flickering gently, voices low and deliberate, and the distant hum of a river blending with the quiet of conversation. These slow, considered interactions allowed Rome to expand its influence subtly, gaining respect and loyalty through patience, understanding, and reliability rather than force or intimidation. Trade continued to weave the city into the wider region. Caravans moved at a measured pace along roads and rivers, transporting grain, olive oil, wine, pottery, and simple crafts. Markets became gentle hubs of connection, where merchants, artisans, and citizens exchanged not only goods but ideas, stories, and techniques. Picture a sunlit marketplace, jars of oil glinting in the early light, neatly stacked baskets of grain, merchants speaking softly with one another, and neighbors exchanging knowledge as well as produce. These daily interactions created a web of trust, cooperation, and subtle influence, extending Rome's reach with quiet efficiency, layer by layer, without ever disrupting the city's calm rhythm. The military, while increasingly organized, continued to focus on preparation, discipline, and coordination rather than sudden conquest. Citizens trained slowly, deliberately, and repetitively, learning to move in unison, anticipate each other's actions, and respond calmly under guidance. Imagine young soldiers practicing in open fields at sunrise, the soft shuffle of feet on grass, the low hum of commands carried across the landscape, each step precise, each formation maintained with care. This approach reinforced teamwork, resilience, and measured confidence, ensuring that Rome's defense remained steady and dependable, aligned with the city's broader philosophy of thoughtful, patient preparation. Religion remained a central pillar, providing reassurance, continuity, and communal cohesion. Temples, shrines, and sacred spaces were cared for with attention, and rituals and festivals offered gentle rhythms to the city's life. Picture an evening festival, the warm glow of torches illuminating stone walls, incense curling softly into the cool night air, and citizens offering quiet prayers, their voices blending with the soft rustle of trees and the distant flow of the river. These practices reinforced moral values, nurtured unity, and reminded citizens of their place within a larger, enduring order, creating a subtle but powerful framework for both personal and civic stability. Education and family life continue to guide the Republic's next generation. Elders and parents share practical skills, civic lessons, and stories of heroes, gods, and leaders, often through gentle storytelling at dusk. Children absorb these teachings through observation, repetition, and quiet reflection, gradually internalizing lessons of patience, responsibility, and cooperation. Imagine a young child carefully shaping clay while listening to tales of Rome's past, eyes wide with wonder, hands moving slowly and deliberately, and the mind absorbing principles that would guide a lifetime. These moments ensured continuity of knowledge, values, and civic identity, preparing the city's future citizens to uphold the Republic's calm, measured way of life. Small acts of service reinforced the city's cohesion. Citizens repaired streets, maintained public spaces, and assisted with communal projects with quiet diligence. Imagine neighbors working together to reinforce a bridge, the soft clinking of tools blending with birdsong, the gentle flow of water in the background, and a sense of shared accomplishment binding them together. These simple, deliberate acts cultivated trust, responsibility, and community pride, creating an invisible yet enduring strength that carried Rome through challenges with quiet resilience. Through these combined practices, civic engagement, diplomacy, trade, military discipline, religion, education, and public service, Rome continued to cultivate stability, adaptability, and quiet power. Life moved slowly, each day layering subtle progress upon the last, each interaction reinforcing the Republic's foundations. The Tiber flowed silently past the city walls, reflecting the soft light of sunrise and sunset, a witness to the patient unfolding of society grounded in measured action and thoughtful reflection. By the end of this period, Rome had solidified its equilibrium, balancing internal stability with external influence, tradition with adaptation, and preparation with engagement. Citizens, leaders, and communities moved in gentle harmony, maintaining order, fostering growth, and quietly preparing for the future. The city, like a slowly flowing river, had gathered strength beneath a calm surface, ready to continue its journey with patience, wisdom, and enduring confidence. As night falls softly over the Tiber, as hills cradle the city in gentle embrace, and as lamps glow warmly across homes and temples, Rome rests in serene assurance, its steady heartbeat echoing the careful, deliberate rhythm that has guided its growth and will continue to guide its path through the ages. As Rome reached the height of its early republic, the city settled into a gentle, steady rhythm that reflected centuries of careful growth, thoughtful governance, and patient cultivation of both internal strength and external influence. Citizens moved through their days with a sense of purpose, yet without hurry, guided by the soft cadence of life that had been carefully nurtured over generations. Imagine walking to the quiet streets at dawn, the Tiber reflecting the pale gold of morning, merchants arranging their goods slowly and deliberately, farmers leading animals to the pastures, children trailing behind elders, learning the ways of the city, and the distant rustle of leaves blending with the soft murmur of conversation. Each subtle sound, each gentle movement, contributed to the living tapestry of Rome, reinforcing the invisible threads of stability, resilience, and unity that bound the republic together. The city's citizens had come to understand that true strength did not come from sudden, impulsive action, but from patience, discipline, and measured growth. Assemblies and councils continued to guide civic life, allowing voices to be heard and decisions to be made with care and consideration. Picture a courtyard bathed in soft morning light, citizens seated in attentive silence, voices rising and falling gently, elders guiding discussion, and resolutions reached through reflection rather than haste. Each thoughtful choice contributed to a larger, enduring pattern, a foundation that allowed the republic to thrive quietly and steadily over time. Rome's influence over its neighbors continued to expand, not through conquest or coercion, but through diplomacy, trade, and mutual respect. Envoys moved carefully, observing customs, honoring traditions, and cultivating trust with patience and intention. Gifts were chosen with care. Words were measured, and agreements reached reflected a shared understanding of cooperation and interdependence. Imagine a soft evening scene, leaders seated across from one another, torchlight flickering against stone walls, voices low and deliberate, the gentle flow of the river in the background, and the quiet sense of understanding passing between communities. Through these calm, deliberate interactions, Rome's influence extended outward, weaving a network of relationships that strengthened the republic without ever disturbing its steady rhythm. Trade and commerce continued to flourish with the same gentle, methodical precision. Caravans moved at measured pace along winding roads and rivers, transporting grain, wine, olive oil, pottery, and handcrafted tools. Markets became spaces of quiet connection, where citizens exchanged goods, shared knowledge, and observed the practices of their neighbors. Imagine the warm light of morning illuminating baskets of grain and jars of oil, merchants speaking in calm, steady voices, and neighbors exchanging both produce and gentle conversation. These interactions reinforced bonds, encouraged cooperation, and allowed Rome to gradually expand its reach and influence across the region, layer by careful layer, without ever disrupting the calm rhythm of the city. The military continued to train with patience and discipline. Citizens practiced formations and drills with precision and repetition, learning to anticipate one another, move in harmony, and respond thoughtfully under guidance. Picture a quiet field at dawn, the soft rustle of grass beneath feet, the low murmur of commands, soldiers moving in measured rhythm, each step deliberate, each formation maintained with care. This approach instilled confidence, resilience, and teamwork, ensuring the city's defense remained reliable while preserving the calm pace of life for all its citizens. Religion remained a guiding, steadying force. Temples and shrines were maintained with reverence, rituals performed with devotion, and festivals celebrated to honor both the gods and the cycles of life. Imagine an evening temple scene, the warm glow of torches illuminating stone walls, incense curling softly into the night air, citizens murmuring prayers, and a river carrying the faint echoes of devotion through the hills. Religion provided comfort, continuity, and a sense of order, reminding citizens that their lives were part of a greater, enduring pattern, linking the human and the divine in a quiet, steady harmony. Education and family life continued to nurture the next generation, ensuring that the values, lessons, and traditions of Rome were passed down with care. Elders shared stories of heroes, gods, and leaders, teaching children patience, responsibility, and cooperation. Picture a child listening quietly to a tale of Romulus and Remus by the flickering glow of a lamp, hands moving slowly in imitation of skilled crafts, mind absorbing lessons that would guide a lifetime. These gentle, formative moments created citizens prepared to uphold a republic, maintaining the delicate balance between tradition, civic responsibility, and thoughtful progress. Small acts of service continued to strengthen the city's cohesion. Citizens repaired streets, maintained public spaces, and supported communal projects with quiet diligence. Imagine neighbors reinforcing a bridge, the soft clinking of tools blending with birdsong and the gentle flow of the Tiber, each contribution reinforcing trust, responsibility, and shared accomplishment. These everyday actions, though subtle, created an invisible network of resilience, knitting the city together and providing a foundation that could carry Rome safely into the future. Through all these practices, civic engagement, diplomacy, trade, military discipline, religion, education, and service, Rome had cultivated a society that was strong, patient, and enduring. Life moved deliberately, each day building upon the last, each quiet action contributing to stability, cohesion, and growth. The Tiber flowed silently past the city walls, reflecting the soft hues of sunrise and sunset, a witness to the careful, patient unfolding of a republic that had learned the power of measured action and calm perseverance. And so, as night falls softly over the Tiber, as the hills cradle the city in their gentle embrace, and as lamps glow warmly across homes and temples, Rome rests in serene confidence. Citizens, leaders, and communities move in quiet harmony, maintaining order, nurturing growth, and preparing for the centuries ahead. The Republic's heartbeat continues at a slow, deliberate pace, echoing the patient rhythm that has guided its journey from humble beginnings to a society poised for greatness. Rome's story, built carefully over generations, now stands as a testament to the enduring strength of patience, reflection, and calm resilience, carrying the city into the future with quiet assurance, and leaving its people to rest in the comforting knowledge that their city, their republic, and their way of life will endure steadily and serenely for generations to come.